What do you know about walruses? Most likely you know that they are large and they have tusks. Until recently, this is all I knew too. However, thanks to the controversial work of Kevin Smith, a once celebrated director who brought us the world of Jay and Silent Bob, I have found something else about walruses. All you have to do is watch a documentary. Grab some seafood, guys. We are diving into the depressing work Smith created with his characters in the 2014 movie Tusk. There are two friends who run a podcast. One of them is called Wallace, and thanks to his mustache, he already looks like a walrus. And his name sounds a bit like walrus, too. His podcast partner is the kid from The Sixth Sense.
I see dead people.
He's a bit bigger now. His name is Teddy, and no, he doesn't see dead people. They make a living by finding oddballs on the internet and making fun of them on their podcast. At least they don't sit in the pool, and they don't write their subscribers' names on their bodies. Thanks for that. They come across a video where a guy is messing around with a katana and accidentally cuts his leg off.
Okay, you have some skill.
The shocking video makes the guys have a laughing fit, and Wallace decides that this is $1 million story. He wants to interview the unfortunate guy for a special episode of the podcast. He's even willing to fly to Canada to meet the guy. It's odd that Wallace didn't try to reach out to the guy before the trip and ask him about a collaboration. He just came to him without any warning. When he gets to the house, Wallace discovers that he should have called before he came. The guy from the video committed suicide. He couldn't handle all of the stick he got online. He used the katana from the video to do it. At this point, we get a better idea of what kind of person Wallace is. Instead of feeling the slightest bit of guilt for having mocked the kid on his podcast, he just feels frustrated that he took the trip in vain and didn't get any interesting content for the next episode of the podcast. A quick flashback. We see that Wallace wasn't always like this. He became successful, then the fame and the constant desire to entertain his audience made him a heartless monster with no regard for others' feelings. He cheats on his girlfriend, who loves him, and is angry that this guy killed himself because it's bad for his show. He only thinks about himself. Wow, it feels like Kevin Smith is forcing me to look in the mirror and ask myself what I'm doing. But we don't have time to dig that deep. Wallace drowns his grief with a drink at the bar and goes to the toilet, where he sees a curious ad. A lonely old man says that he has lived a life full of adventure and can't wait to share his stories with someone. The old man even offers a place to stay for anyone who is prepared to keep him company. Damn, just look at that paper and the handwriting. I have a few questions about this note. It looks like something a pedophile or some sort of maniac would write. However, Wallace is not scared. His eyes light up and he gets ready to take another trip, in the hopes that the old man's stories can make up for the void left by the katana guy. I wonder if Wallace always takes bathroom notes so seriously. Wallace hits the road. He pulls into a store to ask for directions from the girls at the checkout, who are played by Kevin Smith's and Johnny Depp's daughters. This scene doesn't have any artistic value. We just learn that Kevin and Johnny have daughters and they can act. We will keep this in mind. He arrives at his destination to find a mansion standing by itself in the dark, and its owner, the old man Mr. Howard, who is so sick that he cannot walk without a wheelchair. Wallace immediately starts talking about what he does, and Howard treats his guests to tea and shares stories about his glorious past, about how he served in the Navy during the Second World War, and how he once met Ernest Hemingway. Surprisingly, Wallace was very interested in all of this. I thought that he was only interested in viral videos and shallow characters, and then this old naval officer opens his soul to him and gives him material good enough to write the next great American novel. Wallace's gaze becomes fixated on the genitals of a walrus, which really gives him a delight.
Why are you gay?
We're not here to judge. Howard explains that once upon a time he was thrown into the ocean and he managed to survive thanks to the help of a walrus. Since then, he has had a passion for this creature. The walrus kept him warm and became closer to him than any friend could. He even gave him a name, Mr. Tusk. A good, strong name. Despite these interesting tales, Wallace starts falling asleep. He passes out and face plants into the ground. In a dream, Wallace replays a conversation he had with his girlfriend, Allison, just before leaving for Canada. Allison says that fame has spoiled Wallace, and although he is now successful, she no longer recognizes him. He is no longer the positive person person he once was, the man she fell in love with. We see that Wallace is aware that he has changed for the worse, but it is too late to turn back, and his reckoning is just around the corner. His instinct did not let him down. He wakes up in a wheelchair. Howard is sitting in front of him, rubbing a walrus tusk. He tells Wallace that he passed out because he was bitten by a poisonous spider. Oh, one more thing. The spider's venom entered Wallace's body, and his legs had to be amputated.
Feel my legs. I said, Bubba, they ain't there.
Wallace is shocked and bombards Howard with questions. He answers them with obvious lies. He can't call an ambulance. It's impossible to transport Wallace, and it would be better not to use his phone. These are bizarre excuses. Wallace should have realized at this point that Howard is a madman and that he has been taken hostage. Later that evening, Wallace starts to understand the dangerous situation he has found himself in. I'm not sure how he didn't realize it when he woke up without his legs. Howard shows his true colors. He gets out of his chair without any problems and tells Wallace about his plan to turn his prisoner into a walrus. Howard has never moved on from the time he spent with Mr. Tusk and wants to live it again. He made a walrus costume out of human skin, which he plans to put Wallace in after several modifications. Wallace is in despair, but nobody is there to hear his screams. Wallace blew his best chance at salvation a few hours later after screaming in a truly absurd scene. Wallace's phone started to ring. It turned out that Howard left his phone unattended out in the open. Wallace managed to get to his phone, but instead of calling the police, he called Teddy and his girlfriend.
Outstanding move.
Neither of them answered the call because they were having sex right at that moment. Allison has grown tired of Wallace's infidelities, so she decided to get back at him by cheating on him with his best friend and podcast partner. Makes sense. Why leave the situation when you can start a cycle of infidelity? The best idea Wallace could come up with was to leave a voice message for his friends. Meanwhile, Howard crept up behind him and stunned him. Then Howard finished what he had started. He cut off Wallace's other leg and stitched his hands to his torso so that he could use them like a walrus. Then he put Wallace into the walrus costume. While Howard was putting the finishing touches together, he told the sleeping Wallace about his difficult childhood and the violence he was subjected to. Meanwhile, Teddy and Allison listened to the voice message from Wallace and called the police. They told them that there is nothing they can do about this maniac. They know who it is, and they should contact the former officer who dealt with his case. Serve and protect? Nope. That's the motto of the Canadian Police Force. Back to the madness at hand. We see Wallace dressed in the homemade walrus costume made from bits of human flesh. He is having a swimming lesson. The transformation is complete. He is the new Mr. Tusk. Shockingly stupid. Attention, here is the unexpected twist. Johnny Depp appears. I think this was to pay for his daughter's appearance. Johnny plays the retired detective. Like everything else in this film, he doesn't look promising. With the help of Depp's character, as well as a tip from the daughters of Depp and Smith, Teddy and Allison manage to find the madman's house, but it's too late. In a fit of terror, Wallace kills Howard with his new walrus tusk. Yes, you heard that right. It turns out that when Howard was stuck on the island where he first met Mr. Tusk, he had to kill and eat his new friend for survival. Don't ask me how the exhausted man could have killed such a large animal, but that was his salvation. And ever since, Howard has felt guilty about killing Mr. Tusk and has wished that it had been the other way around, that he had died and the walrus lived on. Now, years later, he got what he wished for. The end is coming, and it seems to be completely ridiculous. Wallace is rescued, but he isn't sent to the hospital or given any psychiatric help after his ordeal. In a few days at Howard's, he became a walrus, and his friends donate him to the zoo, where they visit him and throw him fish. His girlfriend cries when she sees him like this. He cries too. The end. Are you wondering what just happened? The whole point of the film can be boiled down to just a few lines. Wallace spent his life mocking people, so karma was delivered through the hands of a deranged old man. He was turned into a monster, and he'll be pointed at and laughed at for the rest of his days. On the other side, we have a child damaged by the adults in his life. He did not receive kindness and love, so he became obsessed with the one animal that offered him affection and care. In some ways, animals are more humane than people. That's it. A clear moral and a good lesson conveyed by Kevin Smith in the most repulsive and absurd way possible. His film can't exactly be called a horror nor a black comedy. He simply dangles some walrus genitals in front of the viewer in hopes of a reaction. If you are obsessed with the macabre, then this film is for you. But for normal people or walrus lovers, it is merely an attempt to say something meaningful using the cheapest tricks. Repulsive shock tactics. That's all for today. Write your thoughts about the film in the comments and tell me, what would you name your walrus? I would name him Mr. Mustard Mustache. It was nice to see you all. I hope to see you again soon. In the meantime, take care of yourself and ignore strange notes in the bathroom. Bye.